This is Dan Bedandi sitting in for Alex Jones, and I'm going to be joining you for the next 2 hours. And we got Michael Murphy. I'm sorry, a little late, Michael, but it was just a great show. But we got Michael Murphy from truthproductionmedia.com on the Skype, on the phone. I'm sorry, right now. How you doing, Michael?
U.S. Just wanted to correct you, but hey, thanks for covering this most dire issue, the chemtrail geo-engineering issue, which we believe is the most dire issue of our time right now. So glad that you're covering it, and glad to be on this morning, actually.
Oh, thank you. And you're in Hawaii now, right now?
In Hawaii, yeah. So we're a bit earlier. We're at about 9:42 p.m.
Oh, okay.
Most of the world, but yeah, getting hit with aerosols today, and in most days, unfortunately, you wouldn't think in the middle of the Pacific Ocean that they would be chemtrailing, but they absolutely are.
Unbelievable. Yeah, they want to affect the whole planet. But folks, again, this is Michael Murphy from truthmediaproductions.com and whatintheworldthespraying.com. And I watched the film. I talked to you several times, but folks, these films are great. I mean, you learn so much about geoengineering, about chemtrails, what they are, and everything else. And Michael's got to break it all down today. You know, go over details about chemtrails and what separates them from contrails and everything else. And it's a pleasure to have you on again, Michael. How was your trip anyway? How was your flight over there?
Oh, it was good. You know, we're doing a lot of work. We're working actually on an ordinance to ban geoengineering programs on and around the island of Maui. And we just released the follow-up film to What in the World Are They Spraying, which is Why in the World Are They Spraying. Info can be found at whyintheworldarethayspraying.com. But also at the InfoWars store, you can find both videos. And the latest film, the reviews have just been fantastic, and we really tie in, one of many agendas to these programs, which is weather control, corporatization of our weather. Aerosols from these programs are absolutely required to essentially corporatize our weather, and we found that there are a number of agendas, both monetary and political, that can be achieved by controlling the weather. So essentially, if you control the weather, you control the entire planet, every political system, and every food supply. So what we learned was shocking to me, and the world's waking up. We released about 2 months ago. InfoWars has been doing a fantastic job in covering the new film, but it is now making waves around the world. We just released our international version. It has subtitles of several different languages from around the world.
Awesome. And you're doing a great job. I mean, to come out with a second film on top of it, I mean, you guys do great production and everything else. And these are high quality films as well. Again, on InfoWarsStore.com. And it just funds our operation, Michael Murphy's operation, to put out great informational films like this. And again, you can get them both right now for $30, $29.95 on InfoWarsStore.com. And Michael, I just want to ask you a question. Before you were awake, what got you to even look into what chemtrails are, and how'd you stumble upon this?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but like most people, the first person that told me that airplanes were spraying chemicals into our sky to make artificial clouds, I really thought the person was crazy. But I lived in Arizona at the time, and when I moved there back in the late 80s, I remembered the deep blue skies that we had just about every day. Occasionally we'd get a winter storm or monsoon, but generally we had sunny days, and I began to notice that the skies were changing, and that we had these high clouds, which appeared to be cirrus clouds, about 4 or 5 days out of the week. So I knew that the sky was changing, but I really didn't know what the reason was. And it wasn't until somebody had actually pointed out an airplane that was spraying, and I watched the trail behind it. It did not dissipate like a normal contrail, which is short for condensation trail. It actually spread out and turned into what I was seeing on a regular basis in the sky. So I noticed something was different, and I started looking into on the internet what many people call this issue, the chemtrail issue, learning about the spraying. But it wasn't until I went to the American Association for the Advancement of Science meeting, and it was actually a geoengineering conference. So for 3 days, geoengineers spoke about their plans and proposals to spray 10 to 20 million tons of toxic aluminum into our skies from airplanes for the stated goal of cooling our planet. And the theory is that by spraying these aerosols, specifically aluminum, it's very reflective and it will reflect sunlight back into space and thus cool the planet. And what we had found, I ended up meeting a lot of scientists at that conference, many who have been testing our rain. So we started covering this in the first film, What in the World Are They Spraying? And people from around the world have been taking rain tests, especially since we released the first film. What they're finding in massive quantities are the primary ingredients of geo-engineering programs, which is aluminum, barium, and strontium. These are very toxic to both human health and ecology, and we've seen aluminum-related illnesses go through the roof, and now we're seeing actually ecosystems collapsing. I came back to Hawaii after about a 5-month retreat to do the film and promote the film. I just got back yesterday. What we're noticing here in the rainforest, a lot of our trees are dying. Natural organic foods are not growing. Many farmers have seen between the 60 and 70% decline in their ability to grow natural organic foods. Geo-engineering programs have this effect, not only on the forest, but also on natural organic foods. So we have seen profound effects again since these programs have been really ramped up in the past 10 years. And again, we've studied how these ingredients affect our ecosystems, how they affect human health, and again, aluminum-related illnesses. One which many people are familiar with is Alzheimer's. We've seen a 260% increase in Riverside County alone. But these illnesses are going up around the world. People have started not only, as you stated, testing the rain for these metals. A lot of people have started testing the blood. A group specifically in Mojave County, Arizona, about 25 people started getting blood tests. And again, they're finding this chemtrail geoengineering footprint of aluminum, barium, and strontium. And the group in Mojave County, 90% of that group has seen a minimum of 1,000 times the amount in their blood that is considered to be elevated. So we're talking about huge levels. And of course, barium is very toxic to our immune system. It also increases high blood pressure, is related to a number of neurological illnesses, all of which we've seen a great increase from. So it's something that we're deeply concerned about. We're breathing these metals in on a daily basis. After they spray them into our sky, they do fall down into the air that we breathe. So we're sucking up literally heavy metals in every breath that we breathe. So this, as we'll get into the agendas and why this is the most important issue on the planet right now, these are a means for the New World Order to consolidate an enormous amount of both monetary and political power into the hands of a few, literally at the expense of everything on the planet. It's also related to Agenda 21, which I hope that we'll get into during this interview.
Well, yeah, I mean, we know a lot. All this is related to Agenda 21. This is the early 1930s eugenics project. They just renamed Agenda 21, and it's all got to do with everything. I mean, what we talked about earlier, all the subjects today, basically, the RFID chip, poison the water, and everything else, and polluting the skies is part of geoengineering. It's also mentioned, I think, in John P. Holdren's Ecoscience. These people are monsters, and they're coming from every which direction. They just want to kill us all.
Yeah, there's a big link into population control. And what we found, I started researching this, and after we released the first film, people started asking, okay, the evidence is in, we're seeing, we're finding this chemtrail geoengineering footprint and rain tests around the world. Our skies are changing. We now have an issue called global dimming. The Earth is receiving 20% less sunlight than it was just a couple decades ago. This is the stated goal of geoengineering. And again, what we're finding in rain tests match a number of geoengineering patents. They also match what geoengineers state they urgently want to do. They're now calling for emergency geoengineering to start as early as next year, so they're moving very quickly to create global governance. And again, another attempt to consolidate an enormous amount of political and military.
Well, I got in my hand right here on the desk here, I got a copy of Eco Science from John P. Holdren, which is Obama's White House science czar. And right in the book, it talks about population reduction, resources, and environment. In other words, another splice off Agenda 21. And it's, fluoride, all that stuff's in this book. And these globalists openly bragging, yeah, we want to kill off the population. And to do that, GMO, the foods, the chemtrail, I mean, it's all in there. I mean, this is crazy. And people call us a conspiracy theorist. It's these people that openly bragging about what they want to do to us.
Right, and John Holdren, about a month and a half after Obama took office, he came out publicly supporting and calling for geoengineering. So the Obama administration obviously is complicit within this, but now they're promoting this. And for years they've been doing these programs illegally, against human rights and against the basic rights of human beings. But now what they're trying to do, they're selling these programs to the public. It's something that will create a lot of damage. They state it could disrupt the food supply of over 2 billion people, could disrupt rainfall, that it would create droughts in certain areas, floods in other areas, exactly what we're seeing. States that would have profound effects on our ozone layer. We now have a huge ozone hole, both in the northern and southern hemisphere. Geoengineering programs do disrupt our ozone. Many people now are noticing that when they go out into the sun, they burn very quickly. The reason for that, again, is because every time they spray aerosols into our sky, it does deplete and diminish our ozone. So, again, these have profound effects. And then pH changes in our soil. And in the first film and in the second film, we covered these pH changes. And in Northern California, which typically has a very acidic soil, they have seen profound changes in the pH. We're talking about anywhere between 10 to 12 times the normal alkalinity. The primary ingredients, aluminum, barium, and strontium, will change the pH of soils, exactly what we're seeing. So what it does, again, plant life that requires an acidic soil to grow, when that pH changes to alkaline, we start seeing the forest dying and grass and some of the things that our ecosystems are requiring to die off. But also aluminum oxide, it's aluminum in its free form. A lot of plant life and a lot of vegetables and vegetation, they have root systems that will shut down when bioavailable aluminum is introduced. As a result, because it's in our rain, it's now getting into our soil, we're seeing the plants, because again, they're shutting down their root system. They're not getting the nutrition that they require, so they die a very, very slow death. Exactly.
And this is where the globalists, what they do now is to compensate for this. It's like the pharmaceutical, same example. What they do to compensate, so now they come up with GMO crops to make them like resistant to this stuff, and at the same time, they're poisoning the people. It's like the pharmaceuticals. You hear those commercials. To get, erection, whatever. It causes drowsiness, dizziness, possible cause of a heart attack. But you take other drugs to counter that, and you got to take drugs to counter that. And that's exactly what they're doing with the geoengineering. They're poisoning from the air, so they have to compensate with the plants and all that by pumping GMOs into it, modifying everything. You got the cloned fish out there, cloned cows, beef, and it's affecting everything. So they think by compensating for this stuff, it's going to help everything. And when they know in the overall it kills people, and these globalists, they eat organics, they breathe clean air and everything else.
It is, yeah, and we'll get into the genetic modification. We covered a couple areas in why in the world are they strains. And when we first started looking into this, we noticed that about 500 to 1,000 miles ahead of storms, those were the days where we had very heavy aerosol activity, the days where your sun is completely blocked out. The sky is a milky, white, toxic sky. And those are the days that people complain of irritability, difficulty breathing, burning eyes, nausea, headache, all kinds of minor irritants. But I've spoken to a number of emergency room physicians who are aware of this, and again, people come in complaining of those symptoms, but they also expect a higher frequency of heart attacks and strokes during those days because, again, barium increases our blood pressure. But again, 500 to 1,000 miles ahead of a storm, we started noticing heavy aerosol activity. So the film, Why in the World Are They Spraying? I started talking to Scott Stevens. He was the weatherman for over 20 years.
Yeah, Scott. I mean, I know him pretty good. I interviewed him myself a few times, and yeah, he's I mean, he knows a lot about this stuff as well. And he used to be a weatherman. He's seen on the radars these unnatural clouds and all that, and then it made him question, what the heck is that? And I mean, and he did further research.
Right. So we contacted him, and he explained to me how the aerosols and why we started seeing these patterns ahead of storm systems. And what we learned, if you look at what we're finding again in rain tests around the world, it's aluminum. And Geo-engineers are selling aluminum for the fact they're stating it's very reflective and very lightweight, so it will stay up in the sky longer and reflect the sunlight back into space. And what we found after we released the first film, we found a number of studies that indicate putting aerosols into our sky will temporarily, regionally cool the planet. You'll notice on warm days, when they start spraying and block out the sun, the temperature will drop 7 to 8 degrees. However, at night, these aerosols act as a blanket and they actually trap heat. So why are they doing this? But again, going back to what we're finding in our sky, when they put that canopy of aluminum into certain regions, it's actually a conductor. So through the use of the HARP system or other microwave technology, they actually have the ability to heat up our atmosphere. And what does the heating atmosphere do? Boom. It rises. And in that rising, it literally creates a low-pressure vacuum, and it enables these corporations who are behind this to literally steer storms into certain regions, or, in the case of this past summer, out of certain regions. And then the other technology is very basic science. I went to the American Association for Aerosol Research Conference, learned a lot about how aerosols interact in the sky and affect our weather. Aerosols, geo-engineers are very open that their programs will create drought. So what we noticed, California was experiencing drought because when they put the aerosols into the sky, instead of the normal evaporation that should be taking place in the Pacific, when water evaporates, it gets into our atmosphere, it eventually condenses. The water molecules condense on other water molecules, and it eventually falls as rain. But when this metal particulate is introduced into the atmosphere, instead of the water molecules condensing on other water molecules.
Well, Michael, I got my article here, information for chemtrail skeptics. Right in the article here, I list USA Today from February 25th of 2011. They're admitting, can geo-engineering put a freeze on global warming? Exactly what you're talking about. They're admitting, yes, that chemtrails are being used, and they cover it up by saying we're using this for global warming, and others things say, well, that we're using it because I heard wild-eyed excuses by military. They told me, what we do is we blanket so it blocks out radar and enemy satellites, so when we deploy troops and equipment, they can't see what we're doing. Cop-out excuses, and you have Evergreen getting a huge contract by the Air Force to say, to supply these chemicals. And you got HR 2977, the Space and Preservation Act, government openly admitting the chemtrails are real. And, but when it hits mainstream, it's a conspiracy.
Well, they're admitting it putting chaff into our atmosphere, but the official statement by geoengineering has been that these programs have not been started, that they want to start testing these programs. But again, evidence is abundant that they've been in full-scale deployment for about 10 to 15 years. But as I was stating before, the aerosols act as cloud condensation nuclei. So instead of the water molecules condensing on each other, they actually condense on this metal particulate, and instead of falling, that moisture simply drifts. And that's the reason why in areas like California we have drought conditions, because California's rain actually drifts over the continental divide, but the rain eventually has to fall. And that's why we're seeing floods in the Midwest and other areas. Now, I did talk to a lot of scientists at that conference, and they did speak about how, depending on what aerosols they put into the atmosphere, they could actually destroy a storm, they could kill a storm, or they could actually make it rain. So we're seeing complete corporatization of our rain. But if we look at this summer's drought, no question about it, this summer's drought was engineered. A number of people called me, wrote me, stating from California California, hey, we don't have any trails. We think the programs have to stop. So look with Scott Stevens and a number of other meteorologists on the satellite, and we noticed that the Pacific Ocean, all the way from the equator up to Alaska, was completely covered. What this did, it prevented sunshine. It prevented the sun from hitting the Pacific and creating the normal evaporation which could occur. So that created the drought in one sense, but eventually, a little bit of moisture does drift. And I had the opportunity to go to the Midwest for about 3 weeks where they were having a tremendous drought. And we did have about 3 storms that were in the forecast. So I went outside and I watched. And we would watch these beautiful storms start to develop, thunderheads start to develop, and then boom, the planes would start literally seeding the top of those clouds.
And if you notice, the planes, I mean, anybody who's got a camera that's been documented, I got a friend in Florida that does this every day, and the planes are always white planes. They're white unmarked planes just about, and they're not your typical airlines, whatever. They're white unmarked jets, and they spray these chemicals, this powder and all that. We got in the article I have. It's got the patent from 1975, a patent by the U.S. government on contrail generation chemtrail spraying. I mean, like, it's the proof's right there. You have DARPA openly admitting, yeah, we could modify the weather. This ain't a secret. This is not conspiracy. They openly admit and brag, yeah, we can modify the weather. We could engineer GMO crops. We could make, anything happen we want. I mean, it's out in, the information's hidden in plain sight.
Right, and you're talking about the Wellstock patent, also referred to as the Hughes aircraft patent. And again, that was the patent designed to spray aluminum, barium, other geoengineering metals into our sky from airplanes. But as I was stating, those clouds, when they started to develop, boom, we'd see the planes, and they'd literally start putting aerosols over those clouds. And within about a half an hour to 45 minutes, boom, we would see literally the storm be iced out. Meteorologists call a storm being iced out a storm falling apart. So that storm would collapse. It would look like smoke, and that moisture would drift. It would not fall. What we did notice, though, this summer, again, we had major drought conditions in the U.S. In Europe, we had major flooding. So it appears that Europe was getting the moisture that the U.S. was getting. And the first time that I heard this, I said, why would somebody want to control the weather? It didn't make sense to me. And then somebody introduced to me a military document called Owning the Weather by 2025. That's an expressed interest of our military. So we contacted former military person, Mark McCandless, who worked in top secret aviation. He was a conceptual artist and designer and worked on some airplanes that could be used for weather control, weather modification. And he explained to us why militaries would be interested in this. And the idea is creating an environment for the enemy through weather that affects the enemy in a way that you can literally keep airplanes from getting off of the ground. You could create sandstorms, like in the case of Iraq. I remember before the Iraq storm, somebody said, Iraqis are getting intense sandstorms. God must really be on the side of the U.S. government. It was before I realized the reality of geo-engineering programs. No question about it. Militaries are interested in creating conditions which put the enemy at a disadvantage. And if you could create droughts, which they have the ability to do in certain regions, you could literally create instability, create starvation in certain regions.
Well, look at the. I mean, I'm envisioning the technique of U.S. against Iran. I mean, just say you occupy all the countries surrounding Iran. You block any trade or exports going in and out of the country. Now, what you do next is basically you pull the plug, and you affect the crops, you affect the water, you affect all this, and eventually they can't get nothing, imports or outputs, whatever, and all of a sudden they're vulnerable. And I mean that's just a good analogy, of why they do this stuff.
Right. Well, it's a very effective weapon, weather control against an enemy. So again, militaries have been using this and probably perfected it back in the Vietnam War. It was used in in a project called Project Popeye, where the U.S. government actually flooded out the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which prevented the enemy supply line or the Vietnamese supply line. So it was a very effective weapon. And again, militaries have a history, going back 100 years, using weather control, weather modification for their purposes. What was interesting to me, though, we looked into an issue, we looked into something that was happening on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange in my research, and I found something out which just blew my mind. We learned that weather was actually being traded on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And I'm going to repeat that because the first time I heard it, I couldn't believe it. Weather is being traded on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Actually, Enron was the first corporation to start trading these derivatives. And what we learned, I ended up contacting a trader from the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and spoke to him on the phone and was so intrigued we actually flew out to Chicago and interviewed him, learned about these derivatives. And a lot of companies, a lot of corporations are interested in these derivatives because it's a means to offset the risk.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is, the corporations make a lot of money, especially Monsanto. I mean, that's one company that's going to make a killing off this. And shifting gears a tiny bit, Mr. Murphy, you mind taking phone calls? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people who would love to talk to you and ask you questions.
Sure, we'd love to take phone calls.
All right, let's open the phone lines up, folks. 1-877-789-ALEX. That's 1-877-789-ALEX. The number's also on the website. Give us a call. We watch your questions, and also if you got other questions too. We're going to take questions from Michael Murphy, then we're going to have our next guest on after that, and we're going to have open topics after that. So, yeah, definitely call in right now. We want to hear from you, and ask Michael Murphy a question. And, Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, so these derivatives, we learned that, a number of corporations, such as heating corporations, energy corporations, would use these to offset the risk. So let's say you're a heating company and you need X number of days to be below 30 degrees, but it's going to be particularly a warm winter like they had in the Midwest last year. These corporations will buy up these derivatives, again, to offset the risk. So it was interesting because Mike Agnew used an example of a company like seed companies are also interested. And he said if you're a seed company, you have maybe $5 million worth of crop in the Midwest, but you know there's going to be a drought, and you purchase $10 million worth of these derivatives, you actually have an incentive for that crop to fail. Now, I'm not saying that every person involved with trading these derivatives is involved with weather control. However, there are certain individuals, there are certain corporations that are in contact with the people who are corporatizing and controlling our weather. And what I did learn was the price of every commodity is driven by the ability to effectively predict the weather. So those people who are in the know, who have the playbook, can literally make billions of dollars if they have the foreknowledge of our weather engineering. So this summer's drought, for instance, we saw food prices literally go through the roof. Corn, wheat prices from the Midwest. This is going to affect food across the world. Increase, I believe, our food prices by about 30%. So those people who invested in those commodities, who are aware that these food prices would be going up through the drought, literally made billions of dollars. So there's definitely, without question, a financial incentive for weather control at the very lower levels. What was more concerning to me, and what I think the whole key to this whole issue, is what you had stated earlier, and it's the genetic modification of our food. And we contacted Barbara Peterson. She runs a website called FarmWorks, and began talking to her about how droughts and how the weather affects the farmers. And what we found was there has been a tremendous amount of crop loss due to an issue called abiotic stress. We actually interviewed several farmers, two organic farmers here from Maui, where I'm at right now. Maui has seen a tremendous amount of crop loss. One farmer that we included has seen a 70% crop loss in the past 10 years. Noticed a correlation of that crop loss to the aerosol trails that they were seeing out here. The other had seen a 60% crop loss in natural organic food. So what we found out, a lot of crop loss is due to what's called abiotic stress. As a matter of fact, the USDA predicts by the year 2030 we will see a 50 or a 30% more increase in crop loss due to abiotic stress. What is abiotic stress? Abiotic stress is everything that chemtrail geoengineering programs created. It's drought conditions, it's heavy metal contamination, it's too much moisture, it's also fungal overgrowth. Geoengineering programs, because they block our sun, they actually promote fungal overgrowth. And these are all very toxic to our crops. What he explained to us was, again, the amount of crop loss that we've had due to this is escalating at unbelievable levels.
Oh, it is, and that's a reason for, Monsanto to step in and save the day.
Well, that's what's happening. We learned that Monsanto has a genetically modified seed that addresses abiotic stress. And they have seeds everything from apples to zucchini. So in basic sense, what we have are programs that literally sterilize our soils, and they're creating crop loss of natural organic foods. So we've seen a number of farmers now who, because they're not getting the yields that they've had to, they have two choices. They can either sell their farmland, and this is related to Agenda 21, which I'll get into in a minute.
Well, look what else they're doing too, Michael. What else they're doing? Codex Alimentarius from the UN is trying to outlaw vitamins and all nutritional value in foods. And you got S510 that was passed, the Food and Modernization Safety Act. And you got S3002 by John McCain. They want to basically put a restriction on over-the-counter sales of vitamins. I mean, this is just 3 bills that attacking the agriculture, attacking the way you eat, and labeling people as terrorists because you want to eat organic. I mean, this is crazy. But we got a line full of callers. I want to ask you some questions, and if you're ready, I could get some callers for you.
If you want to bring some callers on, can I make one main point of what this is? What this is, it's spoken about in almost every religion about the prophecies in the end times. And they talk about this big oppressive system that wants to be worshipped. And I really got the epiphany here a couple of years ago when I was on Maui. And we grow most of our food organically here, and we're simply dependent on natural organic foods. And if you look at it, nature, in the way that we live, we primarily are dependent on nature. We're dependent on natural seeds, sunshine, and rain. It's looking like, and our concern is if these programs continue within the next several months or couple of years, we will completely lose our ability to grow natural organic food. So what this is, it's this governmental corporate conglomerate, which I call the beast, that literally wants to control everything. So through the death and destruction of our ability to grow natural organic seeds, they come in with their genetic modification. That genetic modification is their way of taking this power, literally consolidating this power. And this is the shift of power that all of these religions talk about.
Oh, yeah, and what else it does, too? I mean, it corrupts, I mean, it goes after the temple, what God calls the body, that's the temple, whatever, and they want to corrupt you from within, I mean, through your genetics, the food, I mean, the philosophical with the 501c3 churches, I mean, they want to hit you from every direction, Michael, but let's go to a caller, Habib from New York. How you doing? And thank you for joining us.
I'm good, how are you?
How's it going, man? How's it going in New York over there?
That's good, not that cold.
Awesome. And you got a question for Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, I just want to know the chemtrails. Are they only able to do it in the northern hemisphere, or can they also do it in the southern hemisphere? And their ability to create hurricanes, how serious is that?
Hurricane Alex Jones actually interviewed the father of this hurricane research. They have the ability to steer and control hurricanes. We see it quite often. Actually, on 9/11, there was a hurricane which was approaching New York. Remarkably, that day or the day before, it was actually steered and moved away. So many people are unaware of that. But, yeah, they do have the ability, by putting these aerosols into our sky, heating up that atmosphere, they can actually, again, create a low pressure and steer those hurricanes into regions or out of certain regions. So that technology has been available for a number of years, seems to have been perfected right now. But, again, this is a means of literally controlling every natural system. So what I was talking about before, through the genetic modification, we literally have the usurping of the authority of nature or the authority of God into this power, into the hands of corporations, so that corporations can literally be the source of life. This is, again, the system, the New World Order, the beast, the government corporate conglomerate that wants to be the source of life. So through death and destruction and our ability to not live under nature, now we have to become, again, dependent on these corporations.
Oh, yeah, dependent on the government, dependent on Big Brother. And Habib, thank you for joining us on this late edition here. I mean, it's great that people, the phone lines are all full, and it's great people are still awake and enjoying this programming. And this is why we need your funding, folks, so we can get more programming out and hopefully an overnight show. I would love to do that because a lot of people, myself, I can't sleep at night, so it'd be great to listen to the radio. Go on Infowars.com and watch stuff like this. And we got Ken from Mississippi. How you doing?
All right, guys. How y'all doing?
All right. And from Mississippi, you got chemtrails down there?
Oh, man, you wouldn't believe it. My 3-year-old can spot them. She says, Hun, she calls me Hun. Hun, look, chemtrails. But, yeah, I just have a couple questions. What exactly, so pretty much they're hunters of men's souls what it boils down to.
Oh, that's
good versus evil.
You hit it right on the nail. That's the whole bottom line of all this. The center of the web, that's exactly what this is about.
As soon as people finally realize that, we can really do something great. But I just got a couple questions. Does the chemtrails, what bad effect does it have on our body? That's for Michael or anybody.
Some geoengineering programs are detrimental to our body. And again, in both what in the world are they spraying, why in the world are they spraying, we looked at it from the geoengineering standpoint. And the primary ingredients are heavy metals, aluminum, barium, and strontium. There are a number of other particles that they're putting, even biologicals, that Clifford Carnicom from the Carnicom Research Institute has been finding. So, again, there are biologicals that affect us, but if you just look at the primary ingredients, geoengineering program, very toxic to our health. We've seen respiratory mortality go from number 8 down to number 3 just in the past 6 years. And again, aluminum-related illnesses, bioavailable aluminum, when we inhale it, these are nanoparticles. So typically our body has natural defenses, not only in our lungs, but we have a blood-brain barrier, which should protect us from, again, this aluminum. Well, these, again, are very small, and the fluoride that's in most people's drinking water actually acts as a transporter to bring this aluminum into our brain. Dementia is one of the consequences of overexposure to aluminum. We now have documented cases of dementia and Alzheimer's of people in their 40s. So, again, this affects not only respiratory, it affects literally everything into our system. And bioavailable aluminum is very highly reactive. So when it gets into our system, it actually ends up simply clogging up various parts of our system. So we spoke with Dr. Bourne. He's a physician who specializes in aluminum toxicity. Not only will have an impact on our on many of our different systems, but because it accumulates in the body, it will compromise our immune system, leading to cancers, leading to a number of other illnesses. And that's aluminum alone. If you look at barium, again, barium lowers our immune system and also creates high blood pressure. But strontium is a carcinogen. And, of course, we've seen a great increase in a number of different cancers just in the last couple of years. So we're getting bombarded literally on every angle. But every breath I take, I can't stress this enough, we're sucking in a breath full of heavy metals. And, again, there are a number of ways that we can combat this. We can use various chelation methods. A number of people take zeolite, bentonite, and other things to remove these metals out of our system. I recommend that people, A, get their blood tested or get a hair follicle test to see what your levels are, and then B, talk to a naturopathic physician where you can get on a program to literally learn how to flesh this out.
Oh, good answer, man. And we got Michael from California from the West Coast. How you doing?
Don Badandi, Mr. Mike Murphy. Let me see if I get this right, because I've been listening to Alex Jones for Oh, I'd say about 9 years, and woke up. I'm a sociology major, and I've been listening to George Nard. Let me see if I get this right for the American public. They're killing our water, the ability for the mineral uptake into our body by toxifying us. They're spraying our skies with toxins that literally there's no way to keep that from getting into the center of our core, which is the brain. They're modifying food that only can be grown by toxicities, assistance, Roundup, and pesticides. They are not allowing us to grow food. They're not allowing us to travel freely. They're not allowing us to breathe. They're not allowing... Wait a minute. Is anybody going to say something? Is anybody going to wake up?
Exactly, and that's where InfoWars is about here, and that's why we're trying to, we have this money bomb to fund the operation, because we want to blast our trumpets. I mean, we're limited because of the money and everything, but we want to blast the trumpets worldwide to say, hey, world, not just America, but the whole world, wake up, man. We want to encourage you, the listeners, to get out there, go to protests, go to places like Monsanto, stand in front of a bullhorns, blast these people, tell them, say, we know your agenda, we're standing against it. And you're right, people need to stand up and wake up for us, get mad, then go do something about it, peacefully, of course, and let these people know we're aware, and we're not going to take it, bottom line.
And one thing that we have been effective, why in the world are they spraying? We released 2 months ago, and it's been a worldwide sensation. We now have our international version. It's translated now into subtitles with 9 different languages. So if you make a purchase, again, Infowars.com, you will get that edition. But we encourage everybody who purchases a copy to make copies and hand out for free. And I can use Maui as an example. Been back here many times since we released the first film, handed out literally thousands of free copies of our film. When we first came out here to film back in 2010, very few people, I would say less than 2% of the population, was aware of this. We had community meetings. We had a number of screenings, and again, did free campaigns handing out what in the world are they spraying, and now why in the world are they spraying. As a result, we have critical mass on this island. So people are awakened to this. And when you have critical mass, your political leaders, not that they're completely the solution, but they will start to listen. As a result, we've had citizens here who started developing the Maui Clean Sky Ordinance, which is an ordinance that's addressing geoengineering. It's made it through several stages necessary to getting passed, and it's looking like we will get it passed. So, again, it's an ordinance that will stop these programs here in Maui. And again, I'm not naive enough to think that the geo-engineers are saying, oh, no, we can't spray around Maui. But the goal is to, A, bring credibility to this issue. The people behind these programs have done a very effective job of demonizing this issue as being, quote-unquote, conspiracy theory and not true. So, A, it will bring credibility. But, B, it will be a model for other counties in other states to use literally around the world. And we're at a very vital time because, again, geoengineering now, they're calling for emergency geoengineering, and they're trying to get their legislation in place to make these illegal programs legal by the year 2013. So we're literally in a race for time. So if we establish ordinances in various counties around the country, they will have one hell of a legal problem, and that's an essential goal for it. So, the question was asked, why aren't people getting involved? Well, people are getting involved, and it's really dependent on people like what we did here in Maui. I was just in New York, and I traveled around the world, organizing and getting people motivated to hit the streets. But the first, most important thing that we need to do is get people, A, aware of this, and B, activate people in taking action. And when we do this, which we will be successful in getting these programs stopped. But again, people are starting to wake up, but it depends on us. And I think one of the questions that we need to ask ourselves, those of us who are aware of this and really aware of just how damaging these programs are, based on our research, we have come to no conclusion that there has ever been a greater threat to our planet. It's literally the end of natural life as we know it on the planet. And if we allow these corporations to completely control our food, then we yield them the control to have the ability to completely control our population through the use of genetically modified food. So we have literally given up our freedom. So once people recognize the gravity of this and the fact that our ozone is being shredded by the minute, every day. And I'll be blunt about this. No ozone, no life on the planet. And we're moving very quickly. The ecosystems are collapsing. The forests around the world are collapsing at an alarming rate. This is our life. Those are the very trees that give us air, that give us oxygen.
Well, that's the thing. They wanna suck the life from us, and they want to suck the life from us. And you're supposed to keep your mouth shut, not do nothing about it. But we're gonna go to Charles in California, another West Coast guy. How you doing?
Hello. Good Andy.
Hey, what's going on?
Really enjoyed your conversation yesterday about the occult.
Oh, great. Bill Schnoblin, man, that guy was great.
Yeah, the guy's wonderful. What I wanted to say is that I thought the first video was incredible. But what I don't hear reflected enough is when you hear the scientists themselves say, we're going to lay our future on the shoulders of our grandchildren. When they literally say that, and that's, I believe, at the San Diego Convention Center where the scientists that actually said that expressed those words. What's your feelings on that?
Well, it was David Keith, and he said this is not really a moral hazard. We're just rewriting on our grandchildren. And essentially what they're stating is we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. We're dealing with a situation that's going to dramatically affect generations behind us. And geo-engineers are selling this. They're very open about how damaging these programs are, and they're stating it's going to kill some people. It's going to disrupt the food supply of over 2 billion people. Guess what? We're currently in a food crisis. This wasn't an engineered food crisis. They're very open that it will affect certain countries, and they talk about how do they deal with this issue when you harm certain countries. How do you pay them off? They're open that it will damage our ecosystems, that it will damage our protective layer, the ozone layer. So they're very open about this. But they say, you know what? If we don't do this, if we don't spray these aerosols into our sky, the entire planet's going to die. Well, that's a lie from the pit of hell. These programs have nothing to do with protecting the planet, but they have all to do.
Oh, absolutely. They openly admit it, and they openly admit that. In the documents, you got eco-science and everything else openly admitting that they're not. It's not for the benefit of humanity. And I'm sorry because we got to move on. We got a few more callers. We got Keith, Donna, Mike in Dallas. We're gonna get you. Don't worry, just hanging tight. And we go to the next caller, Keith from California. One more West Coast guy. How you doing?
How you doing there, Dan?
Not bad. Just going through the night shift here. I love it. I mean, keeping people awake here in the graveyard shift.
Yeah, I got a question. If you don't mind, I want to make a comment after I do the question, Dan.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, here's what I think. More of a question to the New World Order. If we're such slaves and we're so stupid and we're so inferior to them, why do they got to poison us? Why do they got to do all these things to beat us? Why do they need to? If they're such these little gods they claim to be, these little satanic pedophile scum, they're so powerful and they're from this elite bloodline. Why do they got to use things like chemtrails on us? Why do they got to dumb us down if they're so superior to us? You're a bunch of little cowardly trash. Now, you little scum, and you're going to get crushed by God's hammer.
Yeah,
and
right.
that's what's happening right now. You guys are scum. You're trash. All you little people listening in, we ain't afraid of you. It ain't just InfoWars. They ain't afraid of you. We're not afraid of you. The common man ain't afraid of you. You got some people dumbed down, but you don't have us all. And you're going to lose. You're going to get just what the Nazis got, you scum.
Damn right. You know what? And these people, these evil people know that, okay? That's what, ticks them off the most because they know what's coming to them. And they know, and I want to explain one thing, folks. I know people get so upset about this stuff. They want to take up bombs and go after, do this violence bomb. I'm going to tell you one thing. The most powerful weapon on the planet, more powerful than the nuclear weapon, any arsenal you could imagine, it compares to any armor, is one thing. It's called truth. Just like Joseph Goebbels, Adolf Hitler said, truth is the enemy of the state. And it's true, right here. I mean, this is truth. These two films right here against geo-engineering, this is the most powerful weapon. This is truth here, the most powerful weapon against a geo-engineering plan because it wakes people up, it makes them aware, and, makes people mad. It's like, you know what, you're not going to do that to us no more because I'm telling you what's going to happen right now. you're going to have a good governor, a good, liberty person like ourselves to become governor and warn the government. Because if I was governor, I know I sound extreme by doing this, because what they're doing is an act of war. I would tell the federal government, next time you spray one chemtrail over my state, I'm going to utilize my National Guard and shoot those planes down, because that's an act of war. You're drugging people, you're poisoning them, you're killing people. That's an act of war, bottom line. And, anybody out there that's a governor, any one of you, you should do, I know it sounds extreme, but you know what? We got to send a message to these people. Say, hey, we're sick of it, because you know what? They're killing people and say, oh, you're inciting violence. You know what? They're killing millions of people like this. And I'm not saying we should blow planes out of the sky, but they should have a warning. Say, we're going to send our Air National Guard up to say, you know what? You keep spraying, we're going to shoot you down, bottom line. And that's what we need to do. I mean, that's what politicians need to stand up and in Congress and go to these Senate meetings and say, you know what? We know your agenda, and, we're going to utilize our full 10th Amendment state power to the max. We don't want it to get violent, but this is the warning. Bottom line, you do it again, it's all out war, because that's an act of war. I'm sorry, and I don't mean to sound extreme, but that is act of war right there. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment. I was kind of shifting gears a little bit here. I'm just a common man, just a normal man. I got involved in this like any normal man should. When I found out they're hurting kids and they're hurting women, they're hurting innocent people. And I look at this money bomb you guys are having. And I'm sorry, for people who donated, great. That's good. But it's pathetic that there's that many people that's watching that show, and the most you guys can raise is probably $250,000. You guys probably have 400,000 by the time you're done. It's pathetic how many of you people out there will let these men put their lives on the line, and they're going to get the hammer dropped on them. They know it when this comes down, and you guys can't even give $1 to these people. You guys make me sick. You're cowards. You're just little Benedict Arnolds is all you people are. I'm not talking to all of you, but I'm talking to some of you, and they've got about 15 million viewers watching them, and that's the best you guys can do. You guys make me sick. You guys are just sitting on the sidelines, and when all this jumps off, you guys ain't going to do a thing. You guys are going to sit back, talk tough, and you're going to sit back and lick boots. If you can't even give these people any kind of money to help them out, you're nothing on my book. I went out to demonstrations Alex Jones was calling. I'm here in the Bay Area. He calls a demonstration to end the Fed. Me and two other people from the InfoWars show up. I'm in one of the biggest areas.
Yeah, and you're right. The thing is, people, you see all the funding come raising in when it comes to mainstream media, all these mainstream media news and all that. But, I know if you don't have money, don't worry about it. Get the information out. But, I mean, if one person, we got 15 million people listening, if every person gave $1, okay, we would have $15 million. And we know, like you said, tomorrow, I mean, right now, we could have the feds bust this place in, like they did in Waco, and call us a bunch of conspiracy lunatics, whatever they want to call us, to justify the means. We know all of our lives here. I mean, you got guys here they've been working for over about 36 hours, the producers and over that, and they're like, they got bags in their eyes, and because they're pushing, because we know at any time, any given time, the hammer could drop, and they would end all this. All of our lives are at stake, even you listeners out there. But the thing is, we don't care, because we know we have to make a sacrifice to keep our country going like our founding fathers did. And, yeah, please donate. The money bomb, we need the money to keep expanding. And, the thing is, the bigger we get, the more unstoppable we are. Because they know they can't beat us all. They know that. And let's go to our next caller. It's Donna from New Hampshire.
Hi, Dan. Hi, Michael. I just want to say thanks for putting out that wonderful, wonderful movie, which I have shown to 100+ people already. And I have to say that every time I see that documentary that you did, Michael, my blood boils every time you go to D.C. Every time I see it, my blood boils. I can't believe the way our servants in D.C. treat you. And, I'm not surprised, but I think it just goes beyond the pale. And also, I think it's very interesting that Bill Gates has been putting up a lot of money for geoengineering, and that really is concerning to me since Bill Gates goes around as a pseudo philanthropist. But there is one thing I wanted to say, and, other than you guys are doing a wonderful job, is remember what Henry Kissinger said. He said, if you control the oil, you control the country. If you control the food, you control the population.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right. And we did cover Bill Gates and Why in the World Are They Spraying? Why in the World Are They Spraying has had much better reviews. The critics have been giving it. It's actually won a couple of awards so far. We just released it 2 months ago in film festivals. So we covered Bill Gates. He does, yes, invest in geoengineering research. What we found out, he also invests in Monsanto. So through the death and destruction of our ability to grow natural organic foods, farmers are forced to go to GMO foods. So he profits from his destruction. He wins on both sides. So again, that is the agenda. It's these people who are destroying natural life, and then they're coming up with their genetic modification, which is
right. And then he's forcing vaccines on people in all over the world too, which we all know that he's a huge eugenicist, and should be arrested, tried for crimes against humanity.
He absolutely should. A lot of people aren't aware of what his father did. His father was a eugenicist as well. And a lot of people think Bill Gates was just some geek, who developed Microsoft in his basement, which he may have. But his father worked very closely with a woman named Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger developed a program back in the 50s or 60s called the Negro Project. It is now called Planned Parenthood. And she is on public record stating we will put these centers in African-American communities to get rid of, and I quote her, the Negro problem.
Oh, yeah, we had that reverend on, what's that reverend's name we had on, the black reverend? Not Childress. We had him on not too long ago. What's the website? blackgenocide.org. I mean, check that out, folks. But he did a great interview about that, about Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is evil. Bottom line, evil. And, Don, I want to thank you for your call, and I want to go to Mike from Massachusetts, next to my home state. How you doing, Mike?
Good. How you doing today, Dan?
Oh, pretty good. How's it going in Massachusetts over there?
Lots of heavy chemtrail and spraying and all the rest of it,
Oh, yeah, they bombard. I mean, like, when I lived in Rhode Island, they bombard, New England. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, some days it can really get out of control. First up, I just wanted to give a shout-out to the entire crew over there.
Oh, thank you.
Sure, you got a bunch of guys crashing on couches and.
Oh yeah, they're all over the place. It looks like a morgue in here at night, but we're having fun though. We're all trying to keep the spirits up, and you got Wes over here. This guy's been here for like 2 days straight. I mean, like he's got bags under his eyes, but he's keeping the going and all that. He's the one answering the calls, and you got Marcos who operating the board, and Chris, the production manager here, and they're rocking. I mean, they've been nonstop for 2 days. I've been here half the days each, but these guys have been here like for 48 hours just about. And, and Alex, I mean, he's just all over the place, and nobody's really sleeping because we know we got a big objective to accomplish.
Yeah, you guys are absolutely awesome. Absolutely love it. So I got two questions. I really wanted to get in yesterday, so I want to ask you a question, Dan, but first to your guests. I'm over here in it's outside of Springfield, Massachusetts, and I work I work literally like a football field away from Westover Air Force Base, and lots of chemtrailing. I'm wondering who exactly is doing all the chemtrailing. Is it dispersed among different organizations, or is it mostly the government? What's going on there?
Well, because they're worldwide programs, there are a number of governments and corporations involved. So that's going to be the basis of our third film. We answered what, and then answered the question why, and now the question that everyone is asking is who's doing this. So we're starting to research specifically what companies are involved. We're looking into Alcoa. Alcoa stock has gone up greatly in the past 10 years. So there are definitely many different corporations involved at many different levels. Raytheon owns a number of geoengineering patents. They're also involved with the weather reporting across the nation, so we're going to be looking into that. We know without question Monsanto greatly benefits from that, and we covered that in why in the world are they spraying. So I recommend that everybody gets a copy, and then I really believe this film, even though the first film woke up over 10 million people, the second film, Why in the World Are They Spraying, has been getting much better reviews. We believe it will be a much better tool, not only for reaching out to your community, but they're also very effective tools for bringing into town hall meetings and to political officials.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Spread them out, make it viral and all that. I mean, like, the information is unparallelable. I mean, like, it spreads like wildfire. Like I said, it's the most potent weapon there is. And let's go to Jay from Massachusetts. How you doing, Jay?
Hey, Dan. Hey, it's Jay from WeStillBelieve.org. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing? This is Jay from We Believe Radio. I mean, great radio show. Is a guest on the show, I think it was last Sunday. And, you know, great radio show. How you doing, man?
Hey, no problem. Thanks for taking my call. I just stayed up to listen to you, Dan. You know, I have a small spiel and a quick question for you. And by the way, you did mention my show. Thank you. WeStillBelieve.org. I actually plug you guys all the time with me and my co-host, the Duke. We're huge fans of Alex Jones, and you know, we stand behind you and plug you guys all the time. So, but yeah, I wanted to talk about something that I've been thinking about for a while. You know, I believe that, you know, obviously there's a war on for our mind. You know, not just mentally and physically, but also spiritually. You know, it seems like, you know, that there's an onslaught, not obviously just Agenda 21, chemtrails, and eugenics, but also like a complete lobotomy of any spiritual understanding. It seems like, you know, the more discoveries there are made in science, the more, you know, things like, you know, Big Bang Theory, abiogenesis, and evolution progress. Yeah, for some, you know, someone like me who's awake and a believer in God, you know, everything I see in nature and logic and understanding points to intelligent design. So my question to you is, do you believe that part of the InfoWar should include enlightening folks to the existence of a creator who I believe gives us the very freedom we're fighting for?
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's the spirit. I mean, like, yeah, that's what drove the people, you know, basically our founding fathers, half of them, and most of the people in the country here. That's what gave them the spirit to overcome overwhelming odds.
Amen. You know, and, there's one resource I would like folks to look at. You know, just you know, if you want proof of you know, creator, intelligent design, there's a free PDF file, Evolution Cruncher. Look it up. It's free. It's like over 1,000 pages of just pure facts. And that's, if you're all about facts and you want proof, it's right there for you, folks.
And thank you, Jay. And God bless you, man. Thank you for calling in. We're going to go back to Mike because I forgot. I apologize, Mike. You had another question. Mike, you there?
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. I thought I got cut off.
I'm sorry, man. I just like, yeah, I'm sorry. It's just late.
No, it's perfectly fine. You guys are running on
over there. It's 4:44 in the morning over there. So
that's all right. I work the night shift. Yeah, you were talking yesterday. It really creeped me out about that guy you met at the airport talking about how they're going to evacuate the East Coast.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm outside of Springfield, Mass., and I saw your video where you covered the whole police state where they're snatching people's cars and everything.
Yeah, right. You know Springfield. You know where that new Valero, I think it is, over the bridge. You know the bridge in the circle there. We're basically in the ghetto part of Springfield, and I was delivering pizza at the time, and I come across that, and I whipped out my video camera, and it ticked me off.
Yeah, no, that was pretty intense video, but like I'm saying, like Springfield, Boston, Worcester, it's like complete, just total police state right now. And like this guy was talking to you about how they want to evacuate with the metro buses and everything.
Yep.
Any tips that you could give me for trying to fend off any kind of like snatch and grabs, anything like that?
Well, the thing is, you've seen all the exercises within the last couple of months they had in Rhode Island and Massachusetts that was going on. You know, disaster drill. I mean, it was just crazy. And he nailed it. I mean, he told me this is way before. He said they're going to do this. They're going to have disaster drills. There's going to be joint exercises with the police, local police, and the National Guard and FEMA. And he was dead on. I mean, and of course, the mainstream media wouldn't tell you it's coming. They'll mention one. The thing is, when they have exercises, they have them at many points in the state. But the mainstream media will mention one, so the public goes over there and they do a safe little, a fun little drill just tantalize the people on TV. Just say, oh, we're doing a good thing, but they don't tell you about the other drills that's going on in the state. I found one. I got on video. This wasn't publicized. It was in, I think, Exeter, Rhode Island. That one wasn't publicized on the media. I went down there. I got thrown out of there and everything, and I was the member of the press. I wasn't supposed to be there, not know about it. It's in the middle of the woods, and a friend lives next to there. They're the ones that let me know. But I mean, like, what to do about it is, I don't know if you see my video about, going to confront these people, get people together, go confront them, because, these people need to understand, we pay your salary. Bottom line, we pay for your salary. Our taxes go to all this stuff. We want to know what's going on. We demand answers. We're going to get them. Bottom line, we're your boss. You're not our boss. And you see the guy from FEMA come over. I want this guy out of here. And he's controlling the state police. And I told the state police cops, why are you taking orders from this guy? You're the law of the land here, not him. He's a federal scum. He has no jurisdiction. Oh, that's proper. What are going to do with it? It's like you're taking orders from tyranny. You know what I mean? And later on, off the camera, the cop is a good guy, and he understood after that because he was a oath keeper and all that. The Rhode Island State Police guy, very nice guy. And he understood. He goes, if it was up to me, I'd let you go in there. But he goes, I'll get in big trouble. And great patriot, whatever. But yeah, you just need to resist it by spreading awareness, go confronting these people, peacefully. Video cameras, never shut your camera off. Get friends, families, whatever. Go down there with signs and, just do that. And let them know we're watching you, bottom line. And let's go to Dallas from Arizona. How you doing?
Great. How are you guys doing?
Oh, great.
Good, thanks.
My question is similar to a previous caller. I've been studying the chemtrail issue for over a decade. And the question I had come up against most recently was his question is who in the world is doing the spraying? And if you're looking for stakeholders, you try to follow the money and see where there's real money. I'd seen the derivatives, and a few years ago I saw FEMA buying up land along the Mississippi, but none of that seemed to meet the measure of real money. But recently I noticed, I saw a picture of a British petroleum unit on Gull Island, and I realized that in the last 2 years they've been able to drill in the Arctic in areas that they hadn't been able to drill before. And this seemed to coincide with the anomalous weather, that it's real clear that the spraying programs were causing these drastic changes. So I was wondering what you thought of the oil companies being one of the major contributors to this program.
Well, that's certainly plausible, so we're going to be looking at that. But without question, the ice melt that we have has been triggered by geoengineering programs. Also appears to be now related to an issue which is called methane release. Exactly what geoengineers now are calling for emergency geoengineering. When the ice melts, we have this abundance of methane that's being released into the sky. And apparently methane is about 100 times more of a greenhouse gas than CO2. So the concern here is, if it is occurring, that we will have this catastrophic event of this warming, which will lead to a number of other events. So with that being said, yes, there definitely is an agenda, and oil companies are drilling. So we're going to look into the possibility of that. But without question, they have warmed that region. They have been related to ice melt, and it is absolutely collapsing our ecosystems around the planet.
Then they go and they blame it on global, man-made global warming. They create the problem reaction solution, order or chaos, and that's the way these people work. And we got to move along a little bit. Thanks for your call, Dallas. And we got Jack from Japan, all the way from Japan. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Oh, great. Thanks for holding us long. And what time is it over in Japan?
Right now it's about 5:50 in the afternoon. So awesome. So I know you've had a couple of sleepy callers, but I'm doing fine. I'm ready to go. Hey, I just want to say, first of all, I'm really psyched to talk to a member of the crew. I mean, I used to work in radio, and I understand that Alex delivers all the information, and he is awesome at doing that. But I also understand that it's the crew that, does all the hard work, vetting stories and researching events and all of that sort of stuff. And so, everybody who calls in, they call in and say, Alex, you do a great job. Alex, you do a great job. And he does do a great job. But I want to compliment you and Rob Dew and everybody else.
Oh, thank you.
And you guys rock. I mean, seriously, you guys are awesome. And to Michael, what I wanted to mention, something that was really interesting in terms of the geoengineering, conversation, is after the earthquake and meltdown in Fukushima, they really started chemtrailing us super hard. Okay? I mean, we got chemtrailed harder than I've ever seen in the last 10 years. And I've been here for a long time at any rate. And sure enough, this last hurricane season, when we get hurricanes here in Japan between May through early July, something like that, the first or second week of July, we're destined to get like 2-3 hurricanes. We did not get a single hurricane that hit Fukushima. Every single hurricane got steered off to the east or steered off to the west, or didn't hit us at all. And so, just to back up what you're saying with the weather modification, it's definitely something that's true.
Oh, there's no question about it. Weather modification appears to be the #1 agenda, and if you control the weather, you can literally control the planet. And geo-engineer David Keith, a couple of years ago, said geoengineering gives man godlike power. And this is what I think he was talking about. Controlling the weather, you can literally control every food supply and every political system. This enables these globalists to consolidate all of the power into the hands of a few. You can literally, let's use Africa as an example. Geo-engineers state that if they start these programs, which they have, it will create droughts in Africa and Asia. Guess what? We now have droughts in Africa and Asia. So if you look at a country who is sovereign, they're growing their own foods and they're growing an abundance of food in either country. Well, they will not go to genetically modified seeds. Monsanto now has stated their interest in genetically modifying Africa. Well, how do you convince farmers to give up the rights to their sovereignty and go to these seeds, which many of them are Terminator seeds, which will not regenerate, which puts the farmer in bondage by having to go back to the Monsanto year after year after year? You can't do it unless it creates a crisis. So right now we have farmers who are literally begging for these genetically modified seeds. The one thing that I wanted to mention, we've been on the air for about an hour now, and I looked at the stats in terms of starvation. Since we have been on the air, over 1,000 children have died from starvation, which is directly related to chemtrail geoengineering programs. And this type of starvation is not only limited to these foreign countries. Right now, we're going to see food prices just related to this summer's drought go up at least 30%. This type of starvation is coming to America, and it's coming very quickly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the writings are on the wall. I mean, like, this is good. They call us the conspiracy theorists, even though they openly write books bragging about this stuff. And, Jack, I want to thank you for waiting and calling from Japan, man. That's great. And I want to, God bless you and your country there, because, I mean, those people it's still a huge disaster right now, the radiation and everything else, and it gets overlooked by mainstream media. And Jack, you still there?
You know, Dan, one of the things I wanted to mention.
I wanted to ask you a question for a second.
Oh, go ahead.
Now, during the Fukushima and all the the disaster took place, I read some articles how the U.S. government stepped in to so-called help, but it noted that they shut down social network websites. And there was, the funny thing was about this, every one of these websites were like YouTube, MySpace, and all that, places you could upload videos. So that shows me that they didn't want the world to see citizens like yourself taking video and upload them to YouTube and all that to show the world what's really going on. So the mainstream media could, block these guys out and lie about the whole situation. I mean, are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I am, and actually, it's a little bit off topic, so I didn't want to, go off of what Michael was, trying to talk about. But yeah. But yeah, that totally happened. Not only that, but they had a situation where you could only pull out of the ATM $100 per day of the money that you owed. So if you wanted to pull out $200-300, you couldn't do it. You could only pull out $100 per day. And so one of the things that Alex has talked about, and other guests have talked about on the show, is get yourself prepared, get yourself ready, because government will not take care of you when it really comes to the push comes to shove, as it were. When it really came down to push comes to shove, oh man, I'll tell you what, there was no gasoline here, there was no fresh food here, you couldn't take money out of the bank.
Wow, unbelievable, man. And my hat goes out to you guys, man. And I'm sorry to cut you off. We just got to move on to our last caller. before the end of the segment. And Jack, thank you. God bless you and your people and your country and all that. And our hearts are out to these guys, man. And we know the tyranny from both of our governments. You know, I mean, it's sickening. It really is. And thank you for your call. And let's move on to Rick from New York.
We have Japanese subtitles available on Why in the World Are They Spraying Now?
Oh, you got this in Japan too? Japanese
yes,
link?
We do.
Yes, awesome.
We do.
Oh, yeah, what are the videos?
Infowars.com. Go to Infowars.com. The next shipment, which ships out today, will have 9 different languages, again, including Japanese. So look into that. You can find more info about the different languages. Just go to the YouTube, Why in the World Are They Spraying, on YouTube, and find out the various...
oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, because people all over the world need to know this information. So, Rick, are you there from New York?
Hey, this is Rick calling from Nevada. How you doing?
Nevada, I'm sorry. The screen's far away. It was an NV instead of NY. I'm sorry. How you doing, man?
Good. You know, Ayn Rand is one of the greatest Americans who ever lived. Of course, she died in the 80s, but she came from Russia, and after having been shut down by the Soviet tyranny, she went across the ocean and became an American and one of the best who ever lived, and she wrote a novel called Atlas Shrugged. Well, the movie version is playing in theaters now, and it is the greatest manual for resistance to tyranny ever written in novel form. It's
I heard a lot of reviews about it. I never got a chance to read the book. Well, I mean, like somebody gave me one. I forgot where it is. I just haven't got time to read it, and I heard a lot of good stuff about, this Atlas Shrugged. And I think they got a website, too, that gives out news as well. Is that true?
Yeah, and if you go to atlasshruggedmovie.com/live, you can watch Atlas Shrugged Part 1, the film, free.
Awesome. And you got a quick question because we got about a minute left.
Now, I want to just start quickly by saying that people that go to the airports are inadvertently signing on to the tyranny of loading these barium and aluminum and other toxins into the fuel supply, and they ought to file a class action suit for that. And now this segues into the TSA tyranny and the searches in the airport. And Ayn Rand's novel inspired me to a very quick thing that I'm going to say here, and that is my own creative license. Here is a message from John Galt, which he sent to us from the future. My friends from 2012, I would send the information necessary for you to breach time, but the looters would only use it to create a more twisted future, my present, which is already beyond insane. Another 6 human beings died today at American airports due to cavity searches. This is an urgent note to convey what is in store and to impel you to a higher level of resistance. The looters are coming. I must sign off now. Keep heart. Your friend, John Galt.
Thank you, Rick. And we got to move on. And thanks for the call. And you got about 20 seconds, Mr. Murphy. And again, thank you for coming on.
Hey, Dan, thanks for having me on, and thanks for all that you're doing at Infowars.com. I encourage everybody to support the efforts over there, and also support getting the information out about these crimes, because our future depends on this. I believe there's
absolutely
no greater crime.
And Michael, thank you very much for coming on the show this late, and we'll be in touch. And stay tuned, because we got Christopher Keys and our special guest host Rich Anatone coming right up soon, and we'll be back on Infowars.com. We need money, man. We need to expand.